Welcome to the Prolific Pulse Poetry Podcast. This is your host, Lisa Tomizanaville. Today we're going to have a guest by the name of Atmos. He's an ambient music producer, progressive rock songwriter, ink artist, free verse poet, abstract photographer, and fantasy fiction author, known for being an animal welfare and mental health advocate, mindfulness practitioner, environmentalist, reincarnationist, activist, and empath. He is focused on the mission of inspiring others, building meaningful relationships, and promoting positive change amidst the inevitable challenges of life. Inspired by the works of Pink Floyd, Tool, Rumi, Alex Gray, and Salvador Dalí, Atmos' diverse creative artistry lends itself to his creative projects, resulting in a unique fusion of music, art, literature, philosophy, spirituality, science, and world culture. All right, we have Atmos here with us now, and welcome to our podcast. It's so wonderful to see you today, all the way in the UK.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me today. Yeah, I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. I know it's pouring rain here. Are you also having wet weather?
We have had a lot of it recently, but today we've actually had a lot of sunshine, so got to make the most of it while we've still got it.
You got that right. Well, it's so wonderful to have you here. I did, of course, read your bio to everybody, but I would like the opportunity to get to know you a little bit more. I found your bio fascinating. I mean, is there anything that you don't do? Because you are involved in a lot of different things.
I think
Um,
I have been asked that question before. I like to think of myself as open to all creative arts, and I won't say no to anything if I feel like it's something I want to explore. It's just the ones that are in my bio, they're the ones that grabbed me at that time, and they felt the right tool to express what I was trying to express.
what is your, probably, if you could narrow it down, your top one or two things that you
Mhm.
spend the most time focusing on?
Sure. So at the moment, I would probably say it's creative writing and photography at the moment. They're the two that I'm kind of focusing on.
Now, you're also an artist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I create ink drawings. I've done a little bit of painting as well. And I'm actually in the process of getting some prints made as well, of some original pieces, which should be quite fun.
And on your book cover, is that work done by you?
That's right. Yeah, so that's a painting I did about 3 or 4 years, I think, before I actually released the book.
Okay, I'm sharing that on the screen right now so people can see it. I
Mhm.
really love that. I think it's just, I'm a bit of an artist myself,
Hmm.
and I appreciate what other people have to offer in that. And I also
Hmm.
will show it in the book cover form so
Hmm.
people can get even more of an idea.
Mm.
So let's talk about your book. Um,
Sure.
Poetry for the Blind. Is this your first book of poetry?
That's right. Yeah. So this is a collection that almost happened by accident. I never really planned on doing poetry at all. But then when we had the whole lockdown with COVID, I just started writing poetry. And after a while, I thought, this is pretty good. Maybe I should keep going. And then after a while, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and write a book. And that's kind of the where it all came together.
How long have you written poetry?
So I think my first poem I actually wrote in 2016, but it was originally going to be song lyrics, and I didn't actually think of it as a poem at the time. But once it got to around 2019, that's where I started taking it a little bit more seriously, and I started thinking about, writing a collection and trying to connect the dots between the poems so that it sort of there's a narrative that flows throughout the book.
And as a lyricist, how long have you been doing that? How long have you been writing songs?
Also, songs.
How long have you been a songwriter?
So I've been writing music and songs. It's a good question. A long time because music's one of my, I guess, oldest disciplines, if you like. I've probably been writing songs since I was around 14, and I'm nearly 30 now, so it's quite a long time.
Oh, it's always something that I'd like to try to do. I've done a little dabble with it, with
Mhm.
mostly with children's stuff. Um,
Yeah.
People say, well, if you can write poetry, you can write a song. No, it doesn't work that way. I can write a poem, but it's not going to have the same effect as music would. So there's definitely a difference. Do you find that as well? That it's a different transition?
So I think it depends really. I mean, I haven't wrote any new music in quite a while. I've kind of got like a back catalogue of stuff to work on, but I do find with lyrics that at their truest form, they're poetry, and they should be strong enough on their own without having to have the musical accompaniment with them. That should kind of polish what you've already got rather than the melody, if you like, or the rhythm carrying the weight of what's being said. So I think if you've got a really strong poem that may lend itself well as lyrics, you've probably got something good there, and you should sort of develop it further to sort of polish that.
Wonderful. No, one of my authors, Lindsay Sobrano Wilson, she had someone take one of her poems and write a musical score to it. It's such an honor. They were just, so in love with the poems, they decided to take it another, level. And it's pretty exciting to have that happen, to have someone spend the time to do that, because it's no easy task, as you know.
Yeah, definitely. I do find it quite interesting actually. I've seen in more recent months people combining music and poetry, and rather than try to turn the poem into like a traditional song, they've kept the spoken word aspect of it and just had music underneath. And sometimes it lends itself really well. I mean, I actually did some of that myself on the musical side. Somebody was reading a poem at performance, I think last year, and I was playing a lot of ambient music on my guitar at the time. It was just something that was off the cuff as well. I got asked literally at the gig, can you do this? And I thought, sure, why not? So I did that for someone else, and it added another dynamic or like texture to the words, which is cool.
Yeah. Is the guitar your main instrument, or do you have several that you play?
Yeah, so guitar's my first instrument really. After that, I started experimenting a bit more with piano and bass guitar and drums as well. But guitar is always the one that feels the most natural to play. It's probably because I've played it the longest, but I do enjoy playing other instruments as well and sort of switching over depending on what the music needs.
It's very nice. I played a little bit of guitar, but it's awful. It's awful. But anyway,
You can always get
so
better.
yeah, if I actually practiced it. So, source, congratulations on your poetry book. It's wonderful. Have you had a lot of reviews on it yet, and a lot of attention to it?
I mean, I've had quite a few reviews considering it's self-published, but a lot of those have been from me, marketing the book quite a lot, trying to speak to people that I know, different platforms online, social media as well, and trying to raise awareness of the book. But so far, it's had an overall positive response, and a lot of people they took something away from the book, which is good. And it was interesting reading some of the reviews as well to see what people made of the book because everyone's going to have their own subjective opinion. And
Yeah,
a lot of people they kind of got what I was going for, how I was trying to raise awareness of different issues in the world, both personal and on a sort of global scale. But I wasn't trying to blame people or try to make people feel guilty as such by the poems. I wanted people to read them and try to think, how do I feel about this issue and how do I apply that in my own life, and is there something I can do to make the world a better place on that issue? Is there something I could change in my own reality? And quite a lot of people got that. So that meant quite a lot to read that.
so it's basically kind of a book a lot about social awareness and different aspects of it and concern. I have purchased the book, but I have not read it yet. So we
Yeah.
confess that to you. It's definitely on my to read list, and then I will do a review.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So, would you be willing to share maybe a couple of poems from your book?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. So let's go with this one. This is kind of related a little bit to how I've been feeling recently. So this is a poem called Order. Order, a sequence, a pattern, a method against chaos, repeating a routine, fine-tuning details precisely, planning ahead in excess, arguably a form of insanity, compartmentalizing each and every task, leaving no pause, no room in between. Remedial techniques are used to move forward, to follow a guided path. Order can become chaos, but it can be useful for growth. Allow space for moments to unfold and focus on progress, not perfection. Following a strict schedule, writing goals and documenting the day. A set of beneficial tools can help to manage direction, but a rigid mind can dampen creativity. It can be difficult to find the balance between order and chaos, as expecting events to change without action will likely leak. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more. Um, so I've never officially been diagnosed with OCD, but it is something that I'm quite confident that I have. And that's kind of where this poem came from. It's kind of a bit of obsession, obsessing about the details and trying to control everything. And it's something that I'm still working on overcoming, and I probably will for the rest of my life. But I think the more I kind of look into it and reflect on life, that I kind of come up with this idea that we don't really have any control in life. We like to think that we do, but it's an illusion. Um, and sometimes it's better to try and let go of that control and just kind of let life flow naturally and kind of ride the wave, if you like, rather than try to control it. So I just wanted to share that as well with that one.
Yeah, and I think that's very relatable.
Hmm.
As also one who must keep lists and and stay on top of everything and be 20 places in my mind that I don't
Yeah.
need to be. So can certainly relate to that. And probably a lot of people who are writers
Hmm.
can relate to that as well, because I don't know about you, but I have so many ideas that come
Hmm.
that, I have my sticky notes, I have my back of an
Yeah.
envelope, I have all kinds of places where I keep a note because I want to remember to come back to that and write about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've definitely got that too. Yours sounds like it's more of like an analog sort of idea storage. Mine is kind of calendars, my phone, and my tablet as well. So, do you know the app Scrivener? You might have heard of it.
yes, I've heard of it. Mhm.
Yeah, so I use that to. So I'm working on my novel in Scrivener at the moment, but I also use it for unpublished poems or things that might not be quite finished that I'll come back to. So I create a folder and I can access that on multiple devices as well. So it makes it quite easy if I've got an idea out of the house, I can just put that in and then come back to it when the calling is there.
Yeah, exactly. What novel are you writing? Tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm about halfway through a fantasy fiction novel, which is turning into an epic the way things are going. Um, so it's influenced by quite a lot of different things. It's influenced by personal events and personal life experiences. It's inspired by a lot of great works that are already out there across lots of different disciplines as well. So it could be different pieces of art. It could be fiction books that are already out there, like Lord of the Rings, of course, an all-time classic. Um, and I kind of weave these things in together to try and create almost like a reality or a sense of reality that's not quite real, but it's grounded in reality. And I find that's how I tend to write more now when I'm doing fiction.
And do you find that because of being a poet, that your word weaving tends to take on some of the lyrical tones?
Definitely. I mean, in when I started doing the book originally, it was just traditional prose, but I've actually kind of shaped it now into I don't know how to really explain it. It's kind of like a multi-genre book almost because there's poetry in it as well. But the poetry is
Good.
actually part of the story. So it's one of the characters maybe being at like a tavern in the book and trying to become a bard and then trying to create lyrics to come up with that. And so it's been quite interesting actually combining those disciplines together.
It's really cool. That's you'll have to let me know when you're finished with it. Yeah, I'd be curious about it now. I
Yeah,
like a
sure.
novel that takes me on an adventure.
That's
All
good.
right. Well, how about you share another poem with us?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So another one that I'm going to share. So this is probably one of my favorite poems in the book, and it's something that everyone can relate to, or if they don't at the moment, they might in the future because of the way things are potentially heading. So this is called Succession. Climate change, the price of progress, an excuse. Mining for gold to fund a capitalist dream of material we choose to produce. Cutting down trees rooted for thousands of years. Biodiversity destroyed to make way for industrial gears. Killing habitats, a method of manufacturing. Breaking the chains of food to profit from hydraulic fracturing. Burning fossil fuels to generate chemical ammunition. Clouds retaliate and administer acid to restore balance by deposition. Radiation, a slow poison, scarring the surface and dictating drought. Fertile ground becomes hostile as water is seldom throughout. A pioneer of succession in regions where life cannot be sustained. The aftermath of mass extinction, a path which can be restrained. Thank you.
Oh, wow. You really do. You really do get into social concerns. I love it. I love it. Social justice has always been one of my underlying themes. And so I
Mhm,
can connect with that.
mhm,
And you're all the way in the UK and you're seeing
mhm.
that here. I'm all the way
Yeah.
here in the US and I'm seeing that here. So we have an international commonality.
Mhm,
And I like that. I mean, I like that it's worldwide. Not
mhm.
that people have problems worldwide in their
Yeah.
environment, but we do.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so see people sometimes say, well, I'll go away to here and I won't have the problems there.
Mhm.
Well, you still have, no matter where you go, you're going to have it,
Well,
so.
well, that's it. We live in the same ecosystem, really. It's just we can almost feel separated because the world is so large. But what happens in one part of the world can easily affect another thing in the world, you know. It's a delicate balance, and I
It
think
really
especially
is.
recently we've seen all the floods that have been happening in places like Europe, and you know these are very real issues that we need to be mindful of and try to do something about while we can.
We're having a lot of flooding around here now and
Hmm.
fires, especially in
Hmm.
the western part of the country, we have a lot of fires. In the eastern part, in the southern part, we're having flooding. And
Hmm.
yeah, you would think that if you could bring the two together, one would solve the other, right? But then
Yeah.
again, what will we have left?
Yeah.
So, oh, do you do like open mics or anything like that with your poetry?
Yeah, so I used to do them quite regularly. So there's one in my hometown, Coventry, that runs each month. That's called Fire and Dust, and it's been running for quite a long time. And that open mic is kind of where I got into the poetry scene in my hometown. I did do an open mic before that, but it wasn't open for very long, the venue, so it closed down shortly after that. And through performing at open mics, I found it was a better way to deliver the poems as well, because obviously when you read a poem, you're reading it in your own interpretation of the phrasing and the way that say the poems almost. But by actually delivering them, I think I got connected with a lot more people because they were experiencing it live through the way it's supposed to be read, or at least my interpretation of the work. and it's been really good for growing a community or becoming part of a community with other poets. And yeah, there's a really strong poetry scene here in my hometown, so I've been really grateful to be a part of that.
Good. I've noticed I know several people who I consider my friends now because I've known them for so long, and we
Hmm.
connect so well from the UK, poets. In fact,
Okay.
we've got a book launch coming up for a brother and sister group in the UK, and
Oh, okay.
it's um, pretty prevalent. It seems like over there, a lot of things are happening. So I'm
Mhm.
happy to hear that. So, so what was your publishing experience like? Did you work with a publisher or did you self-publish? Or...
So before I actually went down the self-publishing route, I did consider going traditional publishing, but I know that it's a very competitive game, and traditional publishers can be quite picky, from my understanding. And because I wanted this to be done my way, not just the poems, but also the whole sort of product, if you like, I decided to self-publish because I wanted to have that creative control. And it was a lot of work because I had to learn how to format and edit books myself. Because all of the book I did myself. The only thing I didn't do was take the photo of the painting. Um, so I had to learn a lot about the standards, if you like, for publishing. You know, what to look for with margins, and also how to put ebooks together as well, which I thought would be the easy part, but actually that was the hard part.
Tricks to it, that's for sure.
Yeah. Um, but especially, I mean, like the front cover of my book, I quite like it textless, but I know that that's quite unusual for any book, really. But my reason for that was it came from my love of music, and a lot of records that I listen to, they might have text on the back, or they might have a plastic sleeve that has something on the front, but the actual front of the vinyl is it's textless. It's just about the art that's on the front, and that's always stuck with me. So I've tried to translate that to poetry.
I think if I were in a bookstore and I saw that on the shelf, I would pick it up.
Mhm.
I'd want to look at it more and see what was up. Of course, I'm drawn to art, and so
Yeah.
with my clients, I like to try to create or encourage their
Mhm.
creation and an artistic cover. So
Mhm.
yeah, I can relate to that. I've never done one without words on it, but that certainly is a thought
Yeah.
to provoke something like that because in this day and age, most of the books are selling online anyway. I
Mhm.
mean, they may go on a bookshelf, but um,
Yeah.
the likelihood these days is a lot less, of that happening. So it's something to think about. So, are you going to do another book of poetry?
So I don't have a plan to do another book, although I am still writing poetry every now and then. And what I'm just doing for now is I'm just collecting them on Scrivener, and I'm mostly trying to get them into magazines at the moment, just to try and sort of raise awareness of what I do and maybe sort of redirect people back to the book. But I think if none of those get published in magazines, or other pamphlets or anything like that, I can probably see another collection coming at some point, just because over time I will have built up another body of work. But compared to this one, um, they will be kind of just like one-off poems. I mean, some of them might relate to each other, but they won't have been put together in a way that's designed to be cohesive. If they are cohesive, it's more of a coincidence.
Mhm. One of the editors for Fine Lines, so you're welcome to send poetry to finelines.org.
Okay.
Um, that we accept art,
Mhm.
poetry, essay, short story. So you're
Okay.
welcome to send us. I just spoke with the founder, David Martin, this morning, and he said,
Mhm.
people keep sending stuff. He's
Mhm.
working on the next quarterly. So it's a
Okay.
print and digital journal. So
Oh,
definitely
that's
one.
good to
It's
hear.
been there were 34 years. It's been going on. So
Oh,
yeah,
well, that's a good amount of time.
yes, yes, indeed. So, well, do you have any parting thoughts for us? Anything that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to share?
In general, or with the book, or
Your way,
um, I
open
mean, I guess
forum.
Sure. So I guess um, with poetry, I think so. Although I've only got the one book at the moment, I think the other poems that I've been working on are they're in a similar vein, some of them. So they're again like almost like a social commentary. I just think it's important to kind of get across to people that are listening or watching this that, there's always things that are going on in the world around us, and we can choose to kind of live in a state of bliss, but it's important to pay attention to the events that are unfolding around us and almost expressing how we feel about that as well. I mean, it might not be in poetry, it might be through art or music. But I think it's important to keep talking about what's going on in the world because although something might not be affecting us directly, like we talked about with the ecosystem side of things, something that's happening in the other side of the world might still affect us at some point, or even if it doesn't, if it's affecting other people, these are our brothers and sisters on the world, and just because we can't see it with our own eyes doesn't mean it's any less important. So yeah, I think it's just important to get involved and be an activist in different ways as well, and try and do your part to contribute really, try to make the world a better place. So yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Well, best wishes to you in making this world a better place. You work over there, we'll work over here and see if we
Yeah.
can't all come together and find some peace in this world. Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's impossible. It's just not going to come
Not
without
either.
work, like anything.
Yeah. Nothing worthwhile comes, without doing the work for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Atmos, it's been wonderful having you on here today. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. And
Mhm.
I wish you nothing but the best and your future endeavors. Please keep me posted on your
Mhm.
book coming out too. And I'll
Mhm.
get to reading on your poetry and send that review in. But thank you
Mhm.
so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I really appreciate you having me, and yeah, it's been a nice conversation. Talked about quite a lot actually as well in a short space of time. So yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it.